Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
It's Fit Nation. It's Fit Nation. It's Fit Nation.
Awesome.
There will be days when you're falling down. There will be days when you're inside out. There will be days when you fall apart. Someone else will break your heart. They're never gonna hold you back. I'm always gonna have your back. So try to remember that. I hope you're happy. I hope you're good. I hope you get what you wish for. And you're well understood.
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation. If you have not had a chance to check out our first book, 13-Step Guide to Success, it is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback version. If you are going through some hard times and you just don't know where to turn to a friend. Chat with them. If you're afraid to chat with your friend because you're embarrassed or you don't want to be a burden to them, call the crisis hotline at 1-800-273-8255. If you are a veteran, press option 1. Do not make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, we appreciate you joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. Also, download the Military Broadcast Radio app to follow our family of shows. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, _Misfit Nation. This will keep you up to date with the latest episodes of the Misfit Nation and also allow you to hear the amazing stories and journeys of our guests. Speaking of which, our next guest is a multi-award-winning executive coach and author who specializes in the mind-body approach to helping professionals find a way of being that embodies synergy, authenticity, and trust. Operating out of Singapore and Toronto, he is both a neuroscientist and a spiritualist who believes that the greatest leaders are those who are able to effortlessly blend science and spirituality. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Misfit Nation, Marcel Daane. How are you, Marcel?
I'm great, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great that we can connect. And I got you in between your flights, I guess, between Singapore and Toronto. It's good to make that connection. And in this digital world we live in now, it's awesome that we can do this. And I can reach out and grab you and bring you on here to help talk about some better ways to lead in this world where we hear nothing more than there's a lot of horrible bosses out there. And that could be for multiple reasons, but we hear about them. How do we stop that from happening? And I'm glad to have you on and pumped to have you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, thanks. And, and the interesting thing is, I've been a horrible boss myself, right? So, but backtracking a little bit, I love your opening of the show, and I'm a veteran as well. And, one of the reasons why I got into mindfulness and I got into, energy work was because I struggled to reintegrate into society. And, there's no handbook on how to integrate into society. And I found that flabbergasting when I left the military. There was nobody there anywhere. And I'm not American, right? So I'm Dutch, but even for us Dutch people in the military, I spent 10 years in the military, was completely, kind of like my development years as a young adult was in the military, and I came out of the military and there was just no guidance. There was nothing for me to. I had to figure it out all by myself. So I can only imagine, right, how difficult it must be if you're on top of that, if you're dealing with all types of challenges of PTSD and from coming back from war-torn areas, how much more difficult it must be for you. So thank you for opening the show with that, because I think it's a very, very relevant and very important subject.
Awesome. Thank you. Marcel, thank you for your service. I didn't know you served as well in the Dutch Army, I'm guessing, or Dutch Marines.
Yeah, it was actually in the Navy. I was in naval intelligence. So this was during the Soviet era. Yeah. So I was a pencil pusher. Yeah. So yeah, but even so, I think the one thing that sets us apart, people who come from the military, regardless of what country they're from, is the sense of purpose is very clear. Right, when we're in the military, and that's something I needed when I was a kid. I didn't really know it then, but I struggled with mental illness to start with, and I had a lot of anxiety and depression, and I took life way too seriously as a kid. And I was struggling with having some form of direction, some form of guidance, and that's one thing that the military really helped me with, right? It gave me structure, it taught me discipline, but it also taught me purpose. And it's incredible when everybody in the same unit is operating with the same purpose in mind. And it's surprisingly easy to get up at the weirdest times at night, or when you're in the graveyard shift, or whatever it is, and you're it's surprisingly easy to do all of these uncomfortable things when everybody is aligned with where they're going, right, and what needs to be done for this job, and that the job has meaning. And I think that's a really important thing, right? Because for me, it was about being able to, be of service to my country. And I wanted to be of service to my country before I did anything else in my life. And I think that's such an important piece that we then end up missing, because in the civilian life, right, there are so many different meanings and so many different purposes of people, and it can be very overwhelming and very confusing to try to fit in, right? So that's something that I found even when I started working on my own, and I actually. The one job that I could hold, because I got fired from pretty much every job that I tried to kind of get hired into. And I'm sure a lot of fellow military people can resonate with that. But I tried sales jobs and office jobs and all of that, and none of it stuck with me. It just didn't excite me in the same way. And it was interestingly that I got introduced to personal training, because it was something that I was passionate about, which was physical training and physical fitness, mental fitness, and I became a personal trainer, and that's what triggered me into really enjoying that process of working with people and helping them become better. And that's what, over the past 30 years of my evolution, I'm 56 now, and over the past 30 years, that's kind of, where I am today, still helping people evolve. I'm just doing it in a different area with regards to, working with professionals and leaders and all of these kind of, people. But along the way, right, I tried to do, kind of try to fit in and do what was supposed to be, kind of our definition of success. And I started my own business. I actually opened Southeast Asia's largest athletic training facility. This was, slightly before CrossFit, but if you would have looked at the gym, it would have been, I was still very much in that operational readiness kind of mode. So for me, an athlete has to be operationally ready at all times. And so the gym was designed with that format in mind, and we worked with kids, much more so than with adults, to prepare them for college sports and all of those kind of things. And it wasn't during that period of time where I actually had my first taste to being a boss myself, because here I invested all of my savings. My wife and I, we put all of our savings into this business. We had 3 other investors as well, and all of a sudden I had I was kind of my own kind of personal trainer guy, and all of a sudden I had this big business and 15 trainers working for me and marketing staff and all of this kind of stuff. And to be honest, I didn't handle it very well. I wasn't prepared for that kind of growth. It was a steep learning curve, and one of the reasons why I failed as a leader, as a boss back then, and why I became a horrible boss, is because I was so invested emotionally as well in making this business successful that I also became inflexible in how that business could grow, because I lost my sense of adaptability to market demands and all of these kind of things, because it just became my way or the highway, because I was so passionate about it. And it's something I write in my book, right? The 5 energies of horrible bosses. Is passion and purpose can be a double-edged sword, right? Because when we take it too seriously, when we get so emotionally invested in our purpose, it can take away the fun, right? It can really kind of take away the enjoyment of what we're pursuing, to a point where people actually don't think it's fun to be around us either, because we're taking everything so seriously. And that was me. I was a great example of that. And I did that for a few years. And after a few years, I woke up one day and go, this is not me. I don't like who I am. It's like, I can't imagine what my staff and what my partners must think, but I don't like who I am. And so I ended up quitting the business, and actually I ended up selling it off and go, this is not for me. And I learned through that experience that no matter how good you think you are as a leader or as a boss, there is always somebody out there who thinks you're a horrible boss. Right. So the concept of and I sometimes get remarks about this from people who haven't read the book yet, and they're like, oh, but I consider myself a great boss. To say exactly, that's the problem, right? Because there is somebody out there actually who thinks you suck. And and if we're not aware of that, if we're not aware that there are situations in which we aren't necessarily the ideal leader for somebody that we need to be, at least we need to be able to do that with some level of consciousness, right? To be consciously aware of actually how we're showing up and how we're leading. And so the premise of the book really comes around is what type of leader are you choosing to be, and are you consciously showing up as that type of boss or type of leader? And the way that I frame that is using, because I'm also a lifelong martial artist, and using martial arts as a bit of an analogy, is we project different types of energy. This comes from kind of spirituality. It also comes from the Asian health practices like Ayurvedic medicine and Tai Chi, Qigong, and traditional Chinese medicine, is that we project energy in a certain way. And actually when we show up, when I'm, for example, if I'm hungry or I'm tired or I'm something like that, I show up in a different energy than when I'm in a really good mood, for example, right? And so we project these different energies all throughout the day in different situations. But the key is to be actually aware of the energy that we're projecting. So rather than just kind of being a slave to our circumstances and just finding ourselves in a certain energy and hoping that might appeal right to a certain percentage of the people that work for us, we can also say, hey, I can use this as a tool, and I am actually going to shift my energy in a way that actually gets lasting results, right? That really kind of makes an impact in a lasting way, where I can hit the largest percentage of people that work with me, or whether they're clients or whatever it is, and therefore create greater success for myself. And so there's a beautiful tie-in between that energy that we're actually aware of, that we project, and the impact that makes on the people that we live with, that we work with, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what motivated me to write the book, because as I've been working with leaders for the past 12, 13 years, I've discovered the same thing, is that they might find themselves in a certain energy, but that one type of energy doesn't cater to that entire population of people that they might be working with or living with. And so becoming a little bit more adaptable and agile in how we project energy, and being aware of that, so that when we step into a room, we know what kind of energy we're bringing into that meeting, into that situation, or whatever it is that might be, and then how we can use that energy to create the results that not only that we want, but also that are also beneficial to the other party. So that's kind of the premise of the book.
That's outstanding, and I think you hit a lot of key points on there. Finding a sense of purpose, like you alluded to earlier, the veteran sphere. A lot of people, even like yourself, when you got out, you don't know how to find that sense of purpose again. You didn't have someone right next to you on your right or left that you wanted to do stuff for. And then the same thing happens even in corporate world, as you go from being the person at the entry level, as you move up to middle management and management, you have to keep that sense of purpose, and also a passion for what you're doing while you're there, that because your energy will drain if you're not passionate about what you're doing. And then that's when mistakes really happen. And I think a lot of people miss that when they say, I want that promotion because it's going to be awesome for my bank account, but it's not awesome for your heart or your head, because there's nothing there for you. So what do you think?
Yeah, that is the double-edged sword, right? It's almost like a Goldilocks zone where there's having that right amount of passion, but then there are also these people who are like too passionate, and that can cause burnout as well, right? And so when we're too passionate and therefore take things too seriously, it's almost like what we're doing becomes a life or death situation. And of course it never is, right? It's like the amount of leaders that I talk with who talk about their business of losing 2% profit is like life or death, and it's like, no, it's 2% profit. It's not it's nothing, right? And I always use a saying that comes out of the military, is something that we always talked about. I remember my drill sergeant always saying that is, and if nobody died today, you're having a really good day. And I still use that analogy, right? We have to be aware of that our passion, right? The things that we are passionate doesn't necessarily mean it's other people's passion, or that other people are as purposeful and as passionate as we are. And this is where a lot of leaders tend to get it wrong. There tends to be this expectation, this standard of satisfaction, say, I'm only going to work with people who are, equally passionate as I am. And as much as of a driving force that can be for me, it doesn't mean it's the same for everybody else, right? And I think that's the double-edged sword. And you're absolutely right. Without purpose, without passion, where do we go, right? It's like when I walked into civilian life, and there are plenty of people who live without purpose and passion,
yes,
and they're just in that other end of that spectrum. We're just completely lost. Right, just have no idea where they're going, and then there are people who are like have too much of it, and they're just constantly stressed out, and they're at the verge of burnout, and to them it's like they're in the trenches of life, right? Trying to make a buck and trying to get ahead, and they treat it as if they're in Afghanistan,
right.
And in warfare, which of course it isn't. It's very different, and that's I think that's the challenge, right? Is how do you find that midway? How do you find that right amount of passion, right amount of purpose, but not go overboard? And that's something I had to learn. It took me a long time, a lot of awareness, and I burnt out twice from it, right? So I've achieved, hallelujah, I've achieved, burnout, like literally, physical, mental, emotional burnout 2 times in my life, and it takes a long time to recover from burnout. And both times it was driven by me taking life way too seriously, right? And that's that's a double-edged sword that I also want to highlight.
That's all definitely great stuff right there. In today's world, where everything's so fast-paced, and something can happen to the press of a button on my computer here, what are leaders missing the most in this new high-speed technical world that we're in now?
Oh yeah, fantastic. Space. That's space. That's and what I mean with that is leaders need space. They need the opportunity to have visibility, to be able to see things, feel things, hear things, experience things in ways that other people don't, so that they can, kind of drive the organization forward, right? Using not only what we like to call the knowing pillar, right? But also the feeling and the sensing pillars that are so important in leadership. And what I mean with that is if you look at the majority of businesses today, because there is no space, right? The majority of businesses run on data. And you will hear from any person who is a Fortune number leader, is data is the most important factor that decides whether or not a company is successful or not. And the challenge with data is that data is very black and white, right? And so you will see organizations, every single department from HR to sales, the thing that they're doing is accumulating data, right? And that data has to get analyzed. And they have departments of people and computer systems that analyze data that kind of says, hey, listen, you're growing or you're not growing. And, and you're from a customer service perspective, you're ranked here where you could really be here. And, what can that all do? And so companies have become, and including leaders, have become over-reliant on data, right? And so the data dictates where they're going. And the unfortunate thing about data is that it leaves out the human element, right? And if you look at any company or any organization, no matter how big or how small it is, the most important factor that's going to determine success for an organization is the quality of interactions in the least amount of time. And what I mean with that is that if you have a team of people that have really healthy, great conversations about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and they brainstorm together and all of these kind of stuff, that team collectively is going to be able to accomplish more in less time, right? And so effectiveness is not driven numbers of data, but it is actually in numbers of interaction quality, or what I like to call the interaction quotient of an organization, right? So how that quality is. Now, that interaction quotient, the quality of those interactions, can only happen if people have the space to interact. And how many times don't we hear from people say, listen, I would love to send a person a 5-sentence email starting off with how you're doing, but I don't have the time because I have 300 other emails that I have to write, right? Within a certain time. So what happens is the emails become one-word emails. And of course, there's not a lot of interaction quality that happens with a one-word email. There's a lot of misinterpretation that can happen with that. And so when people don't have space, the quality of the interactions decreases, right? They become drones, they become machines that are operating in this space. And all they need is time and space and just be able to take a breath, right? And just to be able to have that clarity and the ability, the opportunity for them to breathe is often not even there. And so I would say that if you are a leader in an organization or even a boss, and you find yourself in an environment where you're not creating space for yourself, right? Or you're not given an opportunity to create space for yourself, there's an issue, and that needs to be addressed, because every single person who works for the organization has the right to space. And that space only leads to greater things. It leads to creativity. It leads to great ideas. It leads to communication. It leads to collaboration. All of the things that we want. And by the way, yes, that does translate into better data too, right? But way better than what you're currently basing on. And so what we're seeing in organizations is that companies are hiring people who are very data centric, and they rely on that data. And these are often what we call managers, and these people manage the data, and they're conditioned through how they grow up, how they're educated, all of these kind of things. They're conditioned to operate in data first, then kind of like what they feel about that data, and then what they're sensing. And this is what I call the 3 pillars of wisdom. The 3 pillars of wisdom are knowing, feeling, and sensing. And it's our ability to use all 3 of those holistically that really drives the most amount of wisdom. But when we're only data centric, we very often don't even trust the other 2 pillars of feeling and sensing, basically the heart and the gut. Right? We don't trust the heart and the gut because we can't quantify it. We can't put data to it. And so we say, okay, let's just focus what's in the head, right? And that's the stuff that we might know from the data that we have. And so managers, as they grow in the organization, they tend to get hired on their ability to be very data centric. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you look at leaders and you look at entrepreneurs, their brains have to operate differently. They can't be so data centric. They have to be the opposite. They have to work with their gut first, then their hearts, and then their heads. They have to be sensing, feeling, and then knowing. So they sense something and they kind of go, hey, what does that feel like to me? Hey, that's a good idea. That's where vision comes from. That's where creativity and ideas come from. And then they say, okay, now how can the data support what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing? And that's really important for an entrepreneur too, because as an entrepreneur, we have an idea. We don't know if the idea works. There's no data to support that. It's just like, oh, I have an idea and I think the idea is awesome, right? And so our gut tells us that this is something that we need to do. So entrepreneurs are the opposite. And so what I find is that for managers to become leaders, they struggle with the transition from going data centric to being kind of sensing centric, right? As where entrepreneurs, they're the opposite. They tend to be sensing centric first, but as the business grows and they do need to start learning how to use data, that can become a very difficult thing for them. So they often don't know how successful their business really is. They don't know how well the business is running because they haven't learned to work with the data, And so for entrepreneurs and leaders, or they might be in the same space of being kind of in that gut, heart to head, as where managers who are evolving go from head heart and gut, and learning how to make that transition is a very important thing for both managers who become leaders and for entrepreneurs who become leaders of organizations as well. And they both struggle in that space. And for them, they need space. They need that awareness. They need the mindfulness. They need consciousness. They need all of these kind of things to be able to consciously being able to, access and train themselves to be able to access things like their intuition and their gut feelings and all, and their emotions as well, right? As where for entrepreneurs, it's more about training kind of that left side of the brain to be a little bit more analytical and a little bit more strategic, and they need space for that training as well. And when we don't give ourselves that space, we don't have the opportunity to cross over, and when we don't cross over, it hurts the business.
Exactly. You've had an opportunity to train a lot of corporate leaders, industry leaders, and up and coming coaches, executives. If you can coach one leader in our great big marble here in the world, who would you love to coach and why?
I would love to coach. There are actually two people that I would love to coach, and I use this a lot. But the one that I would love to work with right now is Joe Biden. And one of the reasons is I really believe that Joe Biden is a certain type of leader, and I'm not talking about his political views, I'm just talking about his leadership style, is a certain type of leader that projects a certain type of energy. It's the energy that we call inviting energy. And what that means is he likes to lead from a perspective of taking in perspectives and basically allowing other people, giving other people space to lead and to be, because a great leader can also be a great follower in certain times. And so he tries to emulate that, and he tries to be that kind of leader. Where Joe Biden struggles is that opposite end of the spectrum, which is I like to call a determined leader. So that is where we need to put determined energy into being steadfast and to be able to make strong decisions and come out with that in a very powerful way and be able to kind of really exert that energy, almost like a war cry, right? Kind of like, hey, this is where we're going. I am Sparta type, kind of approach. And he struggles in that space. You can see it when he's on TV, when he struggles to just project that kind of energy. And the interesting thing is that's a skill. It's not something that we're either born with or not with. He can learn how to do that, right? It's just a matter of whether or not he's willing to practice being able to be that more kind of determined energy type leader, right? And so he might have great inviting energy, but he doesn't necessarily have great determined energy. And a leader has to have both. The same with the other two other energies are what I call light energy and heavy energy. Light energy is somebody who can have fun, who can enjoy themselves, who can enjoy the process, who can be spontaneous, who can be a little bit carefree. On the other hand, there's on the other end of that spectrum is heavy energy, which is being grounded, being, doing the right thing and following the right procedures and all of that kind of stuff. And so the two energies that I see in Joe are really kind of inviting and heavy energy. That's kind of where he lives. But I don't think he spends a lot of time in determined light energy. And I think if he expanded himself in that space a little bit, he would get very different results in what he's doing, right? As where, for example, if you look at a leader like Donald Trump, who, of course, the previous president, he was more kind of determined light, right? So he was more kind of, doesn't really care too much about long-term consequences. He kind of wants to have fun, right? But at the same time, he also wants to be determined. And so there's a population of people who love him for that, right? But he could benefit from maybe being a little bit more inviting and a little bit more heavy. So playing with that energy as well. And so what we see in most leaders, right, is that most leaders are good at one or two of them, but they're not good at all five. And the fifth one, by the way, is neutral energy, and that sits right in the middle. And that's that state of mindfulness, that conscious awareness that we need to have to create space for ourselves. And so most leaders find themselves living in one or two of those energies, and they don't spend a lot of time in the other energies. And so the coaching work that I do is to really help them expand themselves and expand that repertoire of projecting the right energy at the right time, right? So when we project the right energy, we show up in the correct energy, we actually make a much larger impact, and we actually get a lot more done, and we also help other people connect with that energy as well, and for them, that's a very important piece in leadership as well, if they can connect with our energy.
Outstanding. I'm running low on time, so Marcel, what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they want to chat with you, if they want to get some advice from you?
Absolutely. Well, number one is just Google me. So my name is Marcel, and then Daane, Daane is my name. Otherwise, Google one of my books. If you Google five energies of horrible bosses, my name will come up. Or my other book is called Headstrong Performance. That would come up. Of course, I have my own website, marceldaane.com. I also have my company website, which is level5partners.com, and 5 is a V, right? So Roman 5. So that's another way to get hold of me. There's a great assessment on that website, by the way, that you can do for free to test your energy, to see what energy you actually project as a leader. So that's level5partners.com, and then 5 is levelvpartners.com. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere else as well. So it'll be quite easy to find me.
Awesome. Thank you, Marcel, for taking some of your time to share your wisdom with us that you've learned over your time from being a youthful man going into the Navy as an intelligence analyst, and to where you are now with science and spirituality. Thank you.
And thank you so much for having me, and for your mission as well, right? Keep up the great work, and keep inspiring, keep helping, because everybody needs it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, my friend, right? Speak to you soon.
Thanks.
They say love is more precious than gold. It can't be bought, and it can't be sold. I got love enough to spare. That makes me a millionaire. I got a woman with eyes that shine down
You know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on
Fit Nation.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. If you want to, please become a supporter to help us carry this thing on. We appreciate you. If you know someone that brings that energy, has a great story, is an up-and-comer in any industry of music, in the arts, have them reach out to us on themisfitnation.com. We will get back to them within one day and get them on here so they can share their story with the world. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Fit Nation.